Whew. Hey guys, just finished watching A Bugz Life. How about those ants? I don't know about you, but I am ready to talk about it and learn and see what we can grab from this movie. You ready? Oh wait, you just thought we were just going to watch a movie and that was it. You thought wrong. So I think it's very important to know that let's have a schedule of what we're going to be hitting for the month of June. So the first lesson, which starts this week, we're going to talk about the seed, parts 1 and 2. There's 3 parts, but we're going to talk about the first 2 this time, the seed. Then we're going to talk about the domino effect. After that, we're going to also talk about leadership lessons. And then the final part is going to be the content of character, also mixed in with the seed, part 3 of the seed. So now that we have that together, you know what we're going to talk about for the month and what we're going to be hitting on. So let's get started. The seed. I learned that the relationship between Flick and Dot is something very sweet. It's a really good mentorship type of relationship that they have. It's not a father to a daughter. It's really just friends that are different ages. And I think that's exactly what mentorship is. So when I thought about everything that Flick and Dot went through in the beginning scene of the movie, I was thinking, seed tree. Good example, but how do I apply that to my life? Oh, by the way, since we're talking about it, let's go look at it. Come on. It's over somewhere in this area. Yeah. Let's play.
Pretend that that's a seed.
It's a rock.
Oh, I know it's a rock. I know, but let's just pretend for a minute that it's a seed, all right? We'll just use our imaginations. Now, do you see our tree? Everything that made that giant tree is already contained inside this tiny little seed. All it needs is some time, a little bit of sunshine and rain, and voila!
This rock will be a tree.
Seed to tree. You've got to work with me here, all right? Okay. Now, you might not feel like you can do much now, but that's just because, well, you're not a tree yet. You just have to give yourself some time. You're still a seed.
But it's a rock.
I know it's a rock! Don't you
So, when we talk about seed in the tree, I was thinking about who in the Bible has kind of gone through there from the seed to a tree moment. And it's funny, I couldn't think of anybody but David. So, let's talk a little bit about David and his seed to tree moment. So, I think if we go to 1 Samuel chapter 17, verses 32 through 40, that's the first part, I think we can really see him in his seed stage. That's what I want to call it. So let's kind of get into it and let's look at the verses and let's hear about what happened between that part. I like to call it seed prep time. Round 1, lion and bear versus David. Let's get it.
Don't worry about the Philistine, David told Saul. I'll go fight him. Don't be ridiculous, Saul replied. There is no way you can fight the Philistine and possibly win. You're only a boy, and he's been a man of war since his youth. But David persisted. I have been taking care of my father's sheep and goats, he said. When a lion or a bear comes to steal a lamb from the flock, I go after it with a club and rescue the lamb from its mouth. If the animal turns on me, I catch it by the jaw and club it to death. I have done this to both lions and bears, and I'll do it to this pagan Philistine too, for he has defied the armies of the living God.
What we see is that because he has prepared himself during that time, he has it's usually using that time that he has being able to fight the lion and the bear. It's kind of shown his strength. It's shown his mental strength and his faith in God that he will bring him through fighting off huge animals. I mean, a lion and a bear are pretty big animals, if you ask me. Never been in close and personal with one, but I've been to the zoo and they're pretty big. So I love the fact that David kind of remembers that seed, that this is his seed time right now. That remember, now let's kind of backtrack. This literally is the moment where he's about to fight Goliath. If you don't remember the story, there's this huge cool story about a little boy named David who fights this huge giant named Goliath. It's in 1 Samuel chapter 17. So I will read up on that in your spare time or your fun time. But I'm kind of going a little bit ahead to get to the points of what I call before your seed stage. So let's get back into that. So we kind of did a flashback with David, and he has fought a lion and a bear and won by the help of God Almighty. But I really believe the first part in that, as far as the seed prep time, is that he was able to do that with God. And so the next part I want to get into is remembering that you can't do anything by yourself. You can't do it by yourself. You need God in any phase of your life, whether you are fighting a lion and a bear or you were just trying to ace a test, knowing that you can't do any battle without God. So let's get into that for a quick moment.
The Lord who rescued me from the claws of the lion and the bear will rescue me from this Philistine. Saul finally consented. All right, Saul, go ahead, he said, and may the Lord be with you.
I love how when you read those verses, it speaks about you cannot do it you can't do it alone. And David knew that if I'm going to fight this huge giant, then I'm going to need some backup. And who else to call on backup than the guy upstairs, God Almighty. Yeah. So what I also love, now that we've gotten to that point, that he's proven himself and they said, all right, we're gonna let you do this. We're gonna let you fight this big giant. So let's get you ready. Let's get you ready to go into battle. One thing I love that I'm taking away from the verses we're about to read is being yourself. And the fact that no matter what people tell you of how you should do things, you know your strengths. You know your weaknesses. So how about using your strengths to the best of your ability and let God handle the rest? So let's see what happens in that verse.
David replied to the Philistine, you come to me with sword, spear, and javelin, but I come to you in the name of the Lord of heaven's armies, the God of the armies of Israel, whom you have defied. Today the Lord will conquer you, and I will kill you and cut off your head. And then I will give the dead bodies of your men to the birds and wild animals, and the whole world will know that there is a God in Israel. And everyone assembled here will know that the Lord rescues his people, but not with sword and spear. This is the Lord's battle, and he will give you to us.
Woo! 5 stones. 5 stones. I love it. I love it. So now we are into the battle between Goliath. And we want to know how it ends, right? So he is being told about the armor he can't wear, how big it is. And now he is getting ready to go into battle. So let's figure out what happens next in this brief version of it.
As Goliath moved closer to attack, David quickly ran out to meet him. Reaching into his shepherd's bag and taking out a stone, he hurled it with his sling and hit the Philistine in the forehead. The stone sank in, and Goliath stumbled and fell face down on the ground.
We have kind of seen David in his seed moment. He's now escalating or getting a little bit higher or reaching his goal of being a tree pretty early and young in his life. So let's talk about the tree time. Now his goal, like I said, during his seed moments, he was preparing, which brought him to his lion fight, the fight between the bear, and the fight between Goliath. Now some time has gone on in between that, but the whole purpose of this story is to show that when you are a seed, not a tree yet, when you're a seed, you can become a tree eventually. And you know what? Sometimes it's a lot sooner than we think. So I think it's very important to know that your tree time can come at any time. So, tree time. Let's talk about it. We are now in 2 Samuel chapter 2, verses 1 through 7. I think the first part of this, what I took out of it was that prayer is important. That we need to wait for God to let you know when to move. You don't do it by yourself. You do not move by yourself. How do I know this? And how do you, I think you can ask the question, how will you know? From my experience, God will make a path so clear that it gives you no time to question him. That everything just moves in a pattern. It's crazy. I can't explain it. You have to figure it out for yourself. I highly recommend praying and having that relationship with God when it's time to move. And so in David's case, King Saul had died, and it was time for him to become the next king. So let's go find out what happened in that time frame.
After this, David asked the Lord, "Should I move back to one of the towns of Judah?" "Yes," the Lord replied. Then David asked, "Which town should I go to?" "To Hebron," the Lord answered. David's 2 wives were Ahinoam from Jezreel and Abigail, the widow of Nabal from Carmel. So David and his wives and his men and their families all moved to Judah, and they settled in the villages near Hebron.
Then the men of Judah came to David and anointed him king over the people of Judah.
After this, David asked the Lord, "Should I move back to one of the towns of Judah?" "Yes," the Lord replied. Then David asked, "Which town should I go to?" "To Hebron," the Lord answered. David's 2 wives were Ahinoam from Jezreel and Abigail, the widow of Nabal from Carmel. So David and his wives and his men and their families all moved to Judah, and they settled in the villages near Hebron.
All right, let's pause for this last little moment in between the time that he's becoming king. I love that he thanks the people that are about to, the people he is about to rule over. He thanks them, and he's kind to the people that he's about to rule over. That, hey, may the Lord bless you, and he keeps you, and for being loyal to Saul. But now it's my turn, so trust me in what I'm about to do. If you read more on the story of David, he's an interesting king nonetheless. But this is his tree time, and when you finally get that chance to shine and be that tree, it's very important to thank God. And secondly, it's very important to thank and be kind to the people who have been with you during your seed moments. When you were a seed, you didn't just become a seed by yourself. You did not just become a tree by yourself. It took a lot of nurturing. It took a lot of time, and it definitely took a lot of patience and understanding to get you to that tree moment. So it's very important to first thank God, and then thank everyone else that has gotten you to that point. Yeah.
I know it's a rock! I know it's a rock!
The 2 points I want you to take away about your seed moments are that you're never too young to lead. You never know when your tree moment is going to happen. And secondly, just because it's not happening to you now, which is your seed moment, doesn't mean that your time to shine isn't coming. Okay? All right. So watch A Bugz Life again. If you missed some points, if you want to catch some new points, we'll see what happens. But until then, kind of ponder on that. See you next week when we talk about the domino effect. All right, you guys, CTC. Love y'all. See you next week.